What's up guys, JV2017 here, and today I wanted to talk more about building characters for survival mode since the new version is right around the corner. I'm expecting update 1.5 to drop along with survival mode in the first week of May on all platforms. That's kind of my idea, if not sooner. So it's a great time to start planning your characters to tackle this mode. I've been getting a lot of requests for a survival mode build type video, but I think I'll wait and share that when we're closer to update 1.5's release. And so instead, we're going to revisit the entire perk chart from a more basic point of view to understand which categories need to be prioritized in survival mode. As we all know, the rules change in the new survival mode, so there's different considerations and priorities when you're building a character. So here we go, going through each special stat one by one, starting off with strength. And each point of strength added increases carrying weight and increases melee and unarmed damage. So one of the most obvious changes we have in survival mode is a reduction in carry weight. It's ridiculous. It's cut down by almost half, it feels like. And additionally, ammunition has weight, so we're not able to lug around all that ammo like we could before. With all of this in mind, how important is strength this time around? And I would say it's a bit more important than it was before, purely for the carrying weight. You know, a character could get by with low strength before on regular difficulties, only carrying what they needed. Now, a 1 strength character has so little carry weight that a few points in the category seems almost necessary. When looking at the perk options, Armor and Strong Back are still incredibly valuable perks no matter which build you plan to run. And Armor is something I absolutely plan to take on every survival character just from the obvious benefits you get from it. You collect items out in the world, upgrade your armor, increase that resistance, you'll take less damage. It just makes sense. You know, Strong Back is kind of at strength 6, so that's a little bit of a toss-up for me getting all the way up to there because that is quite the investment, but it really is up to you. And the rest of these perk options really depend on specific builds, in my opinion, but I will say that it doesn't, make too much sense to invest heavily into strength unless you're attempting a melee survival playthrough or some very specific playthrough in this new survival mode, which in my opinion is going to be quite difficult unless you invest into sneak. Having a melee build that has no sneak involved is going to be very, like a true challenge in the survival mode. If you're looking for something very difficult, I would try that. Overall, I think that strength is worth a few points and maybe a little bit more if you're a hoarder or if you're trying to build up your settlements in survival mode, not using any console commands or anything like that, then you definitely will need Strong Back to carry all that stuff. Next, we have Perception, and each point added to Perception affects accuracy in VATs. So, after playing the survival mode beta for a few weeks now, my overall impression has been that surviving is more important than dealing damage to me. And I've expressed this opinion in the past, and some have disagreed with me, which is fine, but I'd rather spend level ups on perks that help me manage the dangers of survival mode, these new mechanics, rather than mow down enemies more quickly. Because at all times, you're dealing with fatigue, hunger, thirst, etc. That's my priority. I'm not always going to be fighting enemies. So with all that being said, I don't feel that the passive bonus of increased accuracy in VATs is as important as it was before. But there's still a minimum that I think you want to maintain so you're not completely SOL during combat. Awareness, Locksmith, and now Night Person are some perks that I definitely would consider with most builds. Awareness and Locksmith are obvious. The ability to see opponent levels and resistances will help you decide to either engage these enemies or ignore them, which is something you actually need to consider in survival mode. The ability to get into locked location for items like food or water that might just save your life is also pretty valuable to me. Night Person is a perk I like even more in survival because the reality is that a lot of people don't realize it's nearly impossible to keep your character completely hydrated, completely fed, and completely rested. You're almost always going to suffer some kind of stat penalty from having these effects, and so Night Person mitigates that during the nighttime, and that's why I like it so much, but it's way down at Perception 6, and that's a tough decision to make. The rest of the Perception perks are based on very specific builds in my opinion, but the general gist is that some Perception perks offer great utility in survival, definitely worth checking out. Next we have Endurance, and each point of Endurance increases HP and reduces AP drain while sprinting. As I touched on with Perception, my experience in survival mode tells me that survival is more important, and that's why I believe that Endurance is the most important special tree in survival mode. The passive bonus from increasing health is obviously extremely valuable, especially considering all the new mechanics that can potentially lower your health. There's a ton of different things that will kill you, and so health is a priority for me. Really, most of these perks can aid in your day-to-day survival mode playthrough in some way. You've got Lead Belly, that'll mitigate the radiation damage suffered when you can't get any cooked food or any, purified water. Life Giver just gives you more health. That's obviously useful. Aqua Boy feels more useful this time around because, if you do need to get into water, it's going to be harder to find things that get rid of your radiation. You can't just fast travel and use a decontamination arch, for example. So Aqua Boy will be more useful. Rad Resistant obviously provides a little more mitigation for the inevitable radiation damage as well. Even solar powered all the way down at Endurance 10 is a legitimate consideration from my point of view for the same reason that Night Person is. Free health and radiation regeneration are incredibly useful. I think you get that with the second and third ranks. So this collection of utility perks is a no-brainer for me when it comes to survival mode, and I definitely plan on investing into Endurance. Moving on to Charisma, each point of Charisma affects persuasion chances in dialogue, affects barter prices, and also the maximum amount of settlers you can have in your settlements. Just looking at these passive bonuses, Charisma is not a priority for me. You could say that Persuasion allows you to take shortcuts or to get out of dangerous situations, but it seems like a waste of points in my opinion. The only reason I will always put 3 points into this category on a survival playthrough is for Lone Wanderer. This is arguably still the best perk in the game for any build. You take less damage, you get more carry weight, and you do more damage at the last rank. You can even take dog meat along with you. So unless you're going for a very specific type of character in survival, Charisma I think should be kept pretty low, reasonably low, at least to get Lone Wanderer. Next up is Intelligence, and each point of Intelligence provides a flat XP boost every time the player completes an action that earns experience. Ever since launch, I've repeatedly said that leveling up quickly is important to me. I want to get to as many perks that will enhance my character as quickly as possible. The idea that leveling up quickly isn't important because you're going to hit the level cap anyway, like in Fallout 3 or New Vegas, is not relevant anymore since there is no level cap. Sure, you will level up eventually, but this is just the way I like to play the game. And for that reason, the importance of Intelligence is highly subjective. It really depends on you, as is really anything else in this video. I'm just sharing my opinions. So basic perks like Medic, Gun Nut, and Hacker are still staples of any build from my point of view. Science has also provided a lot of utility with Automatron and Wasteland Workshop for certain items, so that may be worthy of an investment if you're willing to put the points there, but overall, Intelligence is exactly what you make of it. Now we're at Agility, and each point of Agility adds 10 action points and a small increase to pickpocketing chance. The biggest thing affecting agility is fatigue, which will build up for any number of reasons. I've never been able to fully get rid of my character's fatigue in survival mode, which makes agility a little more important to me. I've always been a pretty big fan of agility on normal difficulties because of how deadly most of these perks are, but like I said, I focus more on survival in the survival aspect of survival mode. So sneak is definitely worth a couple of points because again, you want to be able to pick and choose your fights. You want to be able to sneak up and say, maybe I don't want to do this, and go away. If you're low on health, starving, sleepy, or anything else, then you may want to sneak around enemies and make it to a safe location. Action Boy is another legitimate consideration because your AP pool will always be lower than it would be on a regular difficulty. Fatigue is a constant thing, so replenishing that bar is more important in my eyes. Overall, I think that taking agility to at least 3 is worth everyone's time in survival. Our final special category is luck, and each point of luck fills the critical meter quicker and boosts the effectiveness of certain luck-based perks. I've been a huge fan of luck ever since launch, and some people would always tell me, luck is not that good, I don't know what you're talking about. I think people don't legitimately understand why it's so good. I still consider it to be one of the best combat-based categories on regular difficulties because of the way this new critical system works. However, luck is less of a priority for me in survival mode, but can obviously save your ass in combat situations. In keeping with the theme of survival over combat, I'm going to say that lower tier perks like Fortune Finder and Scrounger will be helpful for most builds. I'd probably still take Bloody Mess for the percentage damage boost and maybe Mysterious Stranger for the situations where you really do need that backup. So that's all I have, and I really just wanted to share my thoughts, how I'm thinking about this new survival mode on each category ahead of its release. And I used to talk a lot about perk builds and strategy and building your character all the time, so I hope you all enjoyed some more of that here on the channel. Now I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your priorities in survival mode? Because we do have these new considerations, all these, little things we have to micromanage to keep our characters alive. What are your priorities when you're building your character either from scratch or taking a current character and moving them into the future in survival mode? Share all of that below. Alright guys, today I shared my basic guide on how to approach special builds for the new survival mode in Fallout 4, and next time we will cover more Fallout on my channel, so stay tuned for Fallout 4 tips and tricks videos. If you learned something new or enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe for more survival mode coverage, Wasteland Workshop, and Far Harbor DLC, and general tips and tricks videos. Talk to you guys next time. Peace.